The seed of civilization, how wheat fed faith, power, and survival. 1. The true currency. Forget gold. Forget silver. In the medieval world, the real wealth didn't shine, it sprouted. Seed was the coin of existence. Wheat in England, rye in the north, rice in the east, and grapes under Mediterranean skies. Civilization was built on what could grow. Nearly 80% of the population worked the soil. Fields were factories, plows were lifelines. Rent, taxes, and even dowries were paid in grain. The church took tithes by the bushel, not by the coin. In a world where famine was one bad storm away, every kernel mattered. So what does that actually mean? It means your fortune depended on whether it rained on time. Footnote. Medieval economies functioned on agrarian output, using crops as both sustenance and currency in the absence of coin-based systems. 2. Wheat, the sacred grain. Wheat ruled Western Europe like a quiet monarch. It was the grain of kings and priests, the ingredient of both bread and salvation. White bread meant purity and privilege. The rich dined on it, the poor survived on rye and barley. The table itself became a map of class. Bread wasn't just food, it was theology. In the Christian world, wheat became the body of Christ during Eucharist. To grow it was to serve heaven. But wheat was fragile. It required fertile soil and perfect weather. When it failed, kingdoms trembled. When it thrived, cities rose. So what does that actually mean? It means the balance between faith and famine was baked into every loaf. Footnote. Wheat's religious symbolism and agricultural dependency intertwined economic stability with divine interpretation. 3. The common grains. Not everyone could afford divine bread. Enter barley and oats, the people's grains. They didn't need pampering. They grew in cold, rocky places where wheat refused to live. These humble crops kept Europe alive when nobler ones died. Barley fed peasants and brewed their ale. Oats powered armies more reliably than kings ever did. Soldiers carried sacks of them because, as every general learns, hunger defeats faster than swords. Oats might have been mocked as animal feed, but when famine hit, they were salvation in a bowl. Footnote. Barley and oats provided subsistence resilience, especially in regions unsuitable for wheat cultivation, ensuring population survival. 4. Rice, the civilized grain. Across the East, rice wasn't just food, it was civilization in plant form. China, Japan, and Southeast Asia turned water, soil, and patience into abundance. Terraced hills became steps of survival. Rice built societies that could sustain millions. It was spiritual too. In Japan, emperors prayed for its fertility. In China, rice was a divine gift from Shenong, the farmer god. Each harvest was both an act of devotion and engineering genius. So what does that actually mean? It means rice wasn't just eaten, it was worshipped. Footnote. Rice cultivation required communal coordination and spiritual ritual, forming both the social and metaphysical foundation of Eastern agrarian life. 5. The grape and the olive. Then came the Mediterranean's gifts, the grape and the olive. Wine was the blood of ritual, linking heaven to earth. Monks became early scientists, perfecting viticulture for worship and commerce alike. Every sip was half religion, half rebellion against thirst. Olive oil, meanwhile, was light, medicine, and symbol all in one. It fueled lamps, healed wounds, and anointed kings. To be oiled was to be chosen. In a dry, rocky world, the olive tree was proof that endurance could be divine. Footnote. Grapes and olives represented Mediterranean duality, pleasure and piety, while serving as key trade and religious commodities. 6. Spices and silk crops. While wheat fed the poor, spices fed the powerful. Pepper, saffron, and cinnamon became the jewelry of the table. Their worth was absurd, a handful could pay a soldier, a pouch could buy a home. They didn't fill bellies, but they filled coffers. Spices marked class lines sharper than swords. Behind every feast of saffron rice or cinnamon bread was a merchant counting ships and profit. Footnote: Spices symbolized elite consumption and global trade, linking medieval Europe to distant economies through luxury demand. 7. The threads of civilization. Not all crops were meant to be eaten. Hemp and flax wove the medieval world together. They clothed monks, carried sailors, and preserved thought itself. From flax came parchment, the skin of knowledge. From hemp came ropes that bound sails to destiny. Every robe, every ship's mast, every manuscript whispered the same truth: civilization is not held by warriors, but by weavers. So what does that actually mean? It means progress was written not in gold, but in fiber. Footnote: Hemp and flax provided essential materials for textiles, maritime infrastructure, and intellectual preservation through parchment and paper. 8. The power of wheat. And yet, after all the olives, grapes, and gold dust, wheat still ruled. It was the one crop no society could live without. It set wages, taxes, and peace itself. When wheat failed, revolts followed. The Great Famine of 1315 proved it: when fields went barren, kingdoms cracked. Bread became more valuable than silver. Every loaf symbolized survival. So what does that actually mean? It means wheat was civilization's pulse. Miss one beat, and the body collapses. Footnote: Wheat's dominance in the medieval economy made it both a stabilizer and catalyst for social unrest during shortages. 9. The moral of the soil. The medieval world learned humility through hunger. To sow was to believe. To reap was to give thanks. Each harvest renewed the contract between heaven and earth. Kings built cathedrals, but peasants built continuity. Civilization wasn't anchored by thrones, it was rooted in the quiet faith that the soil would give again. So what does that actually mean? It means the seed was not just food, it was faith made visible. Footnote: The agricultural cycle shaped the moral and spiritual worldview of medieval society, linking survival with divine trust.